So the first thing we're going to look at in the pelvis is the amount of movement that you have in the pelvis. So when our hamstrings are tight, our hamstrings are in the back of the leg and they attach at the bottom of the pelvis, and what they can do when they're tight is pull the pelvis underneath. And when we compound that by sitting and we're slumped, so we're sitting and we're in that slumped position, we're pulling the pelvis tighter underneath and it causes that backward tilt, so we end up in that slumped, curved posture. So we're going to start by sitting in the chair and having a feel. If you put your hands under your bottom, we're going to have a feel where our sit bones are. What I want you to do is just roll the pelvis backwards, and you should feel that your sit bones slide forwards over your fingertips, and then we're going to sit the pelvis up, and we should feel that our sit bones slide behind the fingertips. So technically what I'm doing is I'm curling backwards and I'm sitting up. So if I turn side onto you here, I'm sitting behind and I'm sitting up. My sit bone slides underneath me, my sit bone slides on top. So we get that curl and rock. Okay? And that is going to be one of your exercises that we do to loosen up around the spine and around the lower back. Have a look at the video on your pelvis position and your pelvis hamstring length if you want to double check where you are in terms of tightness within your pelvis. But this is a nice exercise that you can do anywhere. Okay? I'm just going to pop myself on a chair in front of you here. So if I'm on my chair and I'm curling, you just want to make sure that we're not moving the whole chest. The pelvis stays underneath as we move and your chest stays still. So we're looking at your pelvic mobility in sitting. Okay? When you're sitting on a chair, you want to think where your sit bones are under that chair, under your pelvis. And again, when you curl and your sit bones come forward on your fingertips, you sit up and you should feel the sit bones, if you wriggle side to side, they're the two bony bits that dig in. And then as you sit and arch through your spine, you will feel that your sit bones slide behind your fingertips. The big thing that we're looking for, if you check my top, I don't want the movement to be where I'm moving my body. I want the movement to be where I'm moving the pelvis. So when we're looking at the pelvis, if you stand with your hands on your hip or sit with your hands on your hip, you're sitting with your hands on your iliac crest, so it's the sides of the hip bones, either side or the sides of the pelvis. Just down below, this is the bit where we sit, so it's the bony bit, which are basically what we call the ischiotuberosities, so they're your sit bones. In that position of neutral, you can see as I'm sitting, my pelvis and my body are nice and aligned and everything is good. When I sit behind my sit bones, it causes my pelvis to tip backwards. That's what's causing my hamstrings to get tight. When I sit up, I'm back on my sit bones, and when I go the opposite way, I'm tipping forwards and I'm tipping that way. You can think of your pelvis. If it's easier for you, you can think of your pelvis like a bowl of water. When you tip the bowl of water backwards, it's a posterior tilt. You're in neutral and your bowl of water is not spilling anywhere. And then when you tip the bowl forward, it's an anterior tilt and we're spilling the water forwards. Either way, the tip backwards can make mostly your hamstrings tight, little bits of your hip flexors. When you're here, you're relatively in neutral, and when you tip forward, typically your hip flexors can be tight as well as some of your back extensors. So it's very important that when you've got and looking for mobility, that your pelvis can move through all ranges. It's very typical if you're very mobile into one range that you lose mobility into another. And if you're very, very comfortable in that slumped posture, it's then very hard for you to tip up into neutral and extension.